So I'm delighted this afternoon to be with Evan Maindonald. Evan, you're originally from New Zealand, but you've come over to the UK and introduced to me through a simple, I think they're called simple crowdfunding now.
Yeah, that's right. Well,
What?
I've lived in the UK for over 20 years, so I regard myself as almost a native.
And just to bring the listeners to what I'm doing next week, I'm going to visit one of your sites. I think it's in Hythe. Is that correct, Evan?
Yeah, in Hythe in Kent, down on the coast, right by the beach there. So Hythe is a nice little seaside town, probably best described as the posh end of Folkestone.
Okay, so just to let the listeners know, Evan, a little bit about your background, because I've been working through your photos, hundreds of photos, in terms of what you've been up to over the last 20 years, and probably that's just a handful of photos, to be fair. So just to give the listeners a flavour of what you've been up to.
Sure. So I've been involved in property development since 2002. I started off doing smaller projects, refurbishment projects in Gloucestershire. I did a development of 11 houses in Gloucestershire in 2004. Various other projects, conversions of buildings into flats, new builds of houses, and then in 2011 I did the conversion of the Lock Warehouse, a Grade 2 listed Victorian former grain warehouse, into 26 flats with 3,000 square feet of commercial space on the ground floor. We now have three projects underway. One is the one that you've referred to in Hythe in Kent, which is a new build of 6 flats. Very nice contemporary design by Guy Holloway, a well-known Kent-based architect. Has a very strong reputation for contemporary design. We're doing another development in Gloucester called Lime Grove, which is a new build of 12 houses and the conversion of a former school building into 7 flats. And we also have another development in Gloucestershire in a place called Cinderford in Market Street, which will be between 6 and 8 flats, and the reconfiguration of a couple of commercial premises to improve them and make them nicer. So that's a brief summary of what we've done and what we're doing.
Evan, in terms of working, you mentioned the word listed, and that in the whole conversation there, that's what struck my mind there. Was that the first time you've worked with listed buildings?
It isn't actually. I own a place out in Gloucestershire called Danby Lodge, which is a Grade 2 listed former hunting lodge, built in fact on order of Charles II. The recommendation was made to him by Samuel Pepys. That's in the history books. That was a place that was built in 1668. I bought that place back in 2001 and spent a lot of time and money refurbishing it. I lived there for a long time, and I do stay there when I'm up in Gloucestershire, but we also holiday let it. So that's a beautiful old property. I got some experience in dealing with Grade 2 properties with that, but certainly the Lock Warehouse is the biggest conversion of a listed building that I've done, and it does require a lot of thought and sensitivity that you don't have to put into new build projects. Yeah, but a very, very interesting project. Yeah.
Of course, new build projects, Evan, also come with challenges. And just to give the listeners a flavour, it's just a really short synopsis of what you've been up to over the last, you say 20 years, Evan.
Well, not quite 20. I mean, I've been in the UK for 20 years, but I've been doing for over 20, well, more like 25 actually. But I've been doing property development for the last 16.
Yeah. 16 since 2002.
Yeah.
Look, Evan. So just to summarise what listeners are going to see next week when I come down to Hythe. So, what stage of the build is it?
Yeah, so we've really just started there. We will have been on site about a month by the time that you come down. We will have done the site clearance. We would have done a reduced level dig, so taking the top layer off the site. We've knocked some walls down between us and the adjoining premises to get the work set up. And by the time that you're on site, we'll be in the middle of piling. So the foundation is being piled on that site due to the archaeology, and so. Yeah, we should be about 75% of the way through the piling by the time that I meet you on site next week. So an interesting phase, but really just the start of development on that site.
Evan, I just want to give a call to action for my listeners out there. So you've heard about the case study. You've Evan might not like me to call it a case study, but a development which I'm going down in a few days' time, depending when you're listening to the video, in early February 2018. If there's a particular question you want me to focus on for that particular development, or if you want me to continue the conversation about listed buildings. So if there's a particular question on listed buildings you want me to answer, feel free as well. Evan, how can people find out more about what you're doing? Is it, you've got a website called Melt Homes, is that right?
Yep, that's right. If people visit www.melthomes.co.uk, there's a lot of information about the company, about the projects we're doing, and indeed about me. You can also connect with me on, or the company, on social media. So we have an Instagram account. Actually, Danby Lodge, the property out in Gloucestershire, also has an Instagram account if you're interested in seeing that property. It's a beautiful place. I'm on Twitter personally, or on Facebook, or on LinkedIn. So yeah, absolutely. Any of those places are places that I can be found and the company can be found.
Sure. Evan, I look forward to going into a lot more depth. So this was really just a quick, short synopsis of what you've been up to. Just want to say huge thanks for taking time out this afternoon. You've almost told me to go to Gloucester, which wasn't the purpose of this video whatsoever.
No, well, I'd love to take you up and show you the site there. That's very exciting too. Yeah.
Okay. I'm referring to the one which is the listed building.
Oh, I see. Yeah. No, we could show you that. We still own a couple of properties in that building, and we still own the commercial premises, so we could show you that. But actually, we've just also completed demolition on our new development in Gloucester, Lime Grove. So, and in fact, we should be starting construction on that in about a month's time. So, yeah, if you want to come up to Gloucester, more than happy to show you around.
Sure. Evan, I just want to say huge thanks, and huge thanks to my listeners as well.
Okay. Thank you, Brendan. Thanks for the opportunity, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.